Salutations, respected viewers. I am George from Ireland. So this is more about Meghan and Harry, that they shall not be permitted to prostitute the word royal. They'd launched this brand, Sussex Royal, some months ago, and it's all over. So only 44 days after their definitive split from the royal family, the party's over for them. So they're going to be living in Canada most of the year, but they won't be able to sell whatever trinkets that they wanted to sell. I wonder what sort of tawdry items they had in mind or services. But he is still a prince, she's still a princess, they're still the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. They do hold the titles, His Royal Highness and Her Royal Highness, but they've agreed not to use them. I should point out that a lot of these titles are in the gift of Her Majesty the Queen. What she can make, she can unmake. Right? She's granted them the title Duke and Duchess. She retains the right to degrade that at any moment. Now, as for regal status, she can't take that away because the Act of Settlement has shown that Parliament controls royal titles, passing the Royal Titles Act as well as the Act of Settlement. But though they can, the Prince and Princess, they can unilaterally reject these titles. If they renounce their titles, it's fine, that's it. They don't have to get Parliament to agree. But things can be taken away from people. And just like when James II was well, I suppose he was held to have abdicated, and Parliament picked new joint sovereigns. I shan't go into too many historical examples. Hello there, milady manners. I don't know where you are. It's not morning where I am. I presume you're in the United States. The majority of my viewers are on the other side of the pond. So there are a number of outstanding issues to deal with regarding Meghan and Harry. Should I say Harry and Meghan? I think Meghan and Harry is more common. Have you noticed in couples, invariably it's boy before girl, like Adam and Eve, Romeo and Juliet. Meghan and Harry might be the only exception that there is. I would say his and hers. Anyway, security. So how much is the security going to cost? Because if they had only one bodyguard, paid £30,000 a year, he's doing an 8-hour shift. So to cover 24 hours, they need 3 of them. We've got to round that up a bit to take into account national insurance, making up to £100,000. Incidentally, this video will be strikingly similar to a video previously made. Oh, someone's in Australia. But the reception was so poor in the other location that I've chosen to redo it. So that would explain any verisimilitude to the previous video. Anyway, they announced a new situation via a statement on Instagram, which is very 21st century. So there's all been megaphone diplomacy, and they've not, shown any common decency or any guilt, no apology for having let the sign down so badly. I was speaking to one of my American friends, who's a resident here in London, saying the word that he most associates with Her Britannic Majesty is duty, and she's striven to do her duty to the highest possible standard, not to embarrass people, not to let her subjects down, even if she doesn't particularly like her duties all the time. You might not like this regal system, but anyway, the Queen didn't set it up. It is there. And rightly or wrongly, tens of millions of people around the globe in various Commonwealth realms, they respect her. So she tries to be worthy of that respect and not to fail to live up to the standards of her ancestors. Obviously, some of her ancestors were bad. Some of them failed as well. So this lot are completely self-centered. They're absolute scumbags. How entitled do they feel? And how about the debt, the £2.4 million of taxpayers' money that was spent renovating their house, Frogmore Cottage? But we don't own the house. We still get to live there rent-free. Come on. But they said they'll pay rent for it when they're in the UK. Well, normally you have to pay rent for it. If it's going to be yours for your exclusive use, you have to pay rent on it, even if you're not occupying it, even when you're in Canada. That you can, otherwise you can't be sure it'll be available whenever you want it. And they've not paid back a brass farthing of that. And they should be made to pay back every last bob. The Daily Star has begun saying this, that they ought to pay back. Lilibet is a heroine, Lilibet being the family name of Her Majesty the Queen, because she couldn't pronounce her own name, Elizabeth, when she was a toddler. So they made a very sniffy statement, unfavourably contrasting their treatment with that meted out to other members of the House of Windsor, saying, but so-and-so are allowed employment. Do they have a point there? Maybe they do. Prince Edward, in the late 90s, he had Ardent Productions, his own television production company, which presumably is allowed to make a profit. But generally speaking, if they have a privy purse, they're not allowed to engage in business activities. That would seem to be highly inapposite. That could be dragging the name of Windsor through the mire. They mustn't do things which are unworthy of the name of Windsor. Um, anyway, but if they're owning estates or the crown estates, that can make money by selling things, food in particular, by renting out buildings, but they don't have any of that. So they were getting 4 million quid a year. Prince Harry, he also inherited an awful lot of money from his mother, several million pounds, when he turned 18. And because how much was a divorce settlement was over 30 million pounds, that's 1996 values. How much of that was still left when she died in 97, I don't know. But it would have been invested very wisely by wealth managers. And obviously, Prince Harry, he came of age in 2002. So he is not poor by a long shot. Dums. You don't have as many millions as you did before because you got all this money tax free. The taxpayer, people on minimum wage are subsidizing your luxurious lifestyle. You get all this adulation, you get front row seats at the hottest show in town everywhere, you get to meet all these celebrities, but the price you pay is you don't get privacy. All right? All this respect, these titles and so on, the media attention, which Meghan so craved, you pay a price for that. It comes at a cost, which is, your life is not your own. You can't do and say whatever you want. And, you've got to take the rough with the smooth. He who lives by the media shall die by the media. So you can't coquette with the media and then say, oh, how dare you say anything I don't like, or take a photo of me when I don't feel like it, even at a public event like at Wimbledon. No, that doesn't make sense. So if you can't stand the heat, get out of the kitchen. Well, that's what they're doing, supposedly. But how are they going to make money? Presumably by public appearances. Otherwise she might run yoga courses, something like that. They can still do that, but they just can't brand it Sussex Royal. And Prince Harry and Princess Meghan said, but the Queen doesn't own the word royal. I suppose you can't. Well, you can't. Nobody owns the word royal. I suppose so. The boys have got 15 million pounds each at 25. Wow, 15 million pounds. So when would it have been 25? 2007. 15 million pounds at the values of 2007. So he's not hurting financially. Far more money than most people see in their lifetime. If they really cared for the needy, give your wealth away. Oh, I can't stand the press pack, but you can stand all the money? Come on. So these two, they're always harping on about compassion, but they show no compassion whatsoever for Thomas Markle. That's Meghan's father. What has he done that's so abominable? Because Meghan doesn't hold back, okay? She's often theatrical about other people, feeling that the media is too harsh on her, but she hasn't told us what he's done, which is so bad. You think she'd let fly, getting her chums in the media, Jamil and others, to come out with attacks on her behalf. She doesn't even stab people in the front. Thomas Markle said he'd spoken to his son Harry. He later admitted he lied when he said he'd spoken to Meghan. He wanted to help her image by saying that she'd phoned him after his heart surgery, which he hadn't. The guy almost died. He was that close to death, and she didn't give a damn about her dad to even call. Whatever the split between them, it's not too much to ask to contact him. So I think this is very revealing indeed, the way she views people as mere tools to be picked up, used, and thrown away. They're just discarded as no longer she can no longer use them. She's a leech. Okay, she'll suck all the blood out of you, and then when she's had her fill, she'll just drop off, move on to somebody else. So these two are scumbags. They're not filial in the least. They are very opposite of dutiful. They're self-obsessed. They're egomaniacal. Another point is they ought to be excluded from the line of succession because they're not willing to play the game. Then they're not going to do the public duties. Well, they thought they could be half in, half out, and you can't do that. Make your mind up. All right. So they could be outer members of the royal family, Duke and Duchess of this, and the other. So they could have the pre-firsters taken away. People say he's only sixth in line to the throne. Well, that doesn't prove he's not going to inherit. There's still a chance. All it would take is one car crash. Oh, and who'd ever thought that could happen in the royal family? Or one plane crash, or one terrorist attack, and he'd be king. So they should maybe still be Duke and Duchess, but say you're excluded from the line of succession. The statement that Her Majesty can't take the royal title away, presumably there's because brands like the Royal Caribbean out there, was mere bluster. Well, it was said that, okay, it's true that the Queen doesn't own the word royal. Even in the United Kingdom, I suppose you could call anything royal your business. I mean, I don't think you'd be allowed to trademark it, though. I could be wrong. Usually can't sort of own a word. It was a proper English word. Like there was an internet cafe called Mice's. Since there's no word as Mice's, they could copyright it or use it as a trademark. Royal Caribbean. I don't know where that company's based, but in the UK, generally speaking, you're not allowed to trademark a geographical location. Um, Anyway, so they're avaricious. That's what they want. The 4 million quid wasn't enough for them. You know, when there were such flagrant hypocrites over saying every little decision has an impact on climate change, and then going in that private jet to Nice, um, and then when they got a hostile media reaction, they were irate rather than being annoyed with themselves. Yeah, because the media did its job in telling the truth and calling them out on their rank hypocrisy. They said, "Oh, this is just antipathy to us. It's racism or something like that." When they should have said, "Okay, I hold my hand up. I got it wrong. I was a fool. I apologize." They didn't have the humility to do that. They're so conceited. So they're so prone to introspection, and this navel gazing is distasteful. They're very misguided, to say at the least. They are extraordinarily stuck up. Vanitas vanitatem. So they're constantly whining about the media, but I think they would be unable to conceal their disappointment if the paparazzi were not on their tail. As Enoch Powell said, a politician complaining about the press is like a sailor complaining about the sea. Well, it goes with the territory. And these two, I know they're not politicians, but they are public figures. So Meghan is an ambitious social climber, the very definition of it. Absolutely, she is, because she wanted to get into high society to suck up to important people. And well, I knew someone in her social circle, Alexander Julks, and he's just the same. Absolutely craven towards people who think of higher status to them, kowtowing to them. So kiss ass up and kick down. That's what they do. So greed conquers all. I suppose that should be their epitaph. Well, that's enough about them. I'm a bit bored about them. A long period of silence from these two would be much appreciated. Right, everyone, toodle pip.